everybody, welcome to the show. Around the nation right here, Jeff Waldorf. Got a great show for you guys today. If you didn't already know where you were at, welcome to the show. Like I said, we got a good show for you guys today. We're going to talk about hurricane. It's bearing down. Interesting stuff. Very, very dangerous stuff, actually. And, of course, President Trump. And what he... you know what? It's a disaster. So I'm just not going to give too much away. But I'm sure you've probably already seen it. But we'll go through it anyway. We also have Trump changing his mind on impeachment. It might actually be a good thing, according to Trump. How? Well, I'm actually going to agree. What is going on here? I know. Then we also have interesting, I guess, suspicious money transfers going on. I will get into the details about that. Then I'm going to go after the pharmaceutical industry once again for hiking up drugs. But there's an interesting quote here from an executive who believes that charging as much as possible for prescription drugs is a moral imperative. You've got to be kidding. It is a moral imperative. And then, of course, we have Republican lawmakers being incredibly racist. We have that as well. So that's sort of the story, the rundown today. If you guys have any suggestions, of course, on what we should do for future shows, always let us know. Twitter at at ATN on TYT, Twitter account. So if you ever have any story suggestions, go there. Okay. Yeah. And of course you can make suggestions here as well. So that said, couple of announcements before we jump into the show. It's one of those days, man. We have a subscriber drive going on. We're going to try to get to 100,000 as soon as possible. Let me give you the grand total here of what we've got so far. We are at 87,321. So if we could see maybe 87,400 by the end of the day. Definitely not by the end of the show. I don't think that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, 87,400. So if you guys watching the live stream, or well, watching the recording of the live stream after it's over, and you haven't subscribed yet, please do help us get to 100,000. Also, I'm going to be so there's an issue with the YouTube algorithm. I wouldn't say that it's an issue for me, but not so much for YouTube. They might be playing around with it and making it so that videos that are more recently released don't end up in the suggested feed. So you guys might miss a lot of the content that we put out. So what I'm going to be doing to try to alleviate that, at least for patrons, so you make sure you guys don't miss that, is I'm going to be posting my videos to Patreon. So again, the videos are freely available, and if you're not a patron, just hunt down those videos. They're going to be right there. There's no paywall. There's nothing like that. I'm just making it a little easier for patrons to find it, to find my clips. So that's what I'm going to be doing, just to help them out a little bit for helping me out. Again, all the stuff's still freely available, but it's a perk of being a patron. So I'm going to be looking at doing that later on, starting today, actually. So you'll get the roundup of the videos that we put out today. It'll be kind of like a newsletter, except not a newsletter. I don't know how else to explain that. But yeah, patreon.com/TYTNation. Help the show. That's how you can do it. Other ways, of course, using the YouTube Super Chat. And once we hit 100,000 subscribers, we can also be eligible for memberships as well. So that helps out. All right. Anyway, let's dive into the stories here, starting with the hurricane. Now, the Trump administration has taken money from disaster relief and put it into more immigration detention camps, according to a Democratic senator. Now, on Tuesday, it was reported on MSNBC that the Trump administration had transferred $9.8 million from FEMA's budget. That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency that handles disasters like, I don't know, the incoming hurricane, to immigrations and customs enforcement. So they're taking money from FEMA and putting it in ICE. Great. Now, that report cited budget documents provided by Senator Jeff Merkley. So Merkley had the documents, brought them on Rachel Maddow and said, here you go. Take these documents, and this basically shows what their priorities are. We're going to take money from FEMA, and we're going to put it to ICE. Now, Axios notes that the slash in funding comes as the East Coast braces for Hurricane Florence, which threatens to wreak havoc within days, with 2 other tropical systems on the horizon. It's been reported that the funds may be used for additional detention camps, where we are holding, of course, undocumented immigrants and asylum seekers. That's where the money's going to. It's been reported before that the Trump administration wants to hold families in these camps indefinitely. In fact, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go around the Flores settlement, which says that specifically children cannot be held in detention for over 20 days. Well, what happens if you have to release children after 20 days? Then you have to do family separation. Family separation, judges have ruled that you can't actually do that. That's also a terrible thing that you should do, and you have to reunite these families. So the Trump administration is like, fine, you know what we're going to do? Instead of arresting these, or instead of not arresting immigrants and throwing them into these detention centers, we're just going to go around the Flores settlement so that we can hold children in jail with their families indefinitely. And we're going to rob FEMA to help build more of these camps. That's what's going on here. Now, is that a surprise? No, of course not. They would rather put money towards indefinitely detaining people, immigrants, than funding FEMA. And look, this isn't the first time Republicans have went after FEMA. Last year, the GOP Congress, along with Trump, tried to cut FEMA's disaster relief budget by, what, nearly $1 trillion. Or, no, I'm sorry, nearly $1 billion. They looked into nearly $1 billion in cuts, somewhere around $898 million in cuts from the program. Now, this is before Hurricane Harvey. Afterwards, they're like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't actually cut that money from FEMA. Turns out the people in Texas actually need it. And, of course, Florida also got hit by Hurricane Irma. And they're like, well, yeah, we're going to have to fund this. Sorry. But nonetheless, taking money from FEMA, not a surprise. Not a surprise. Now, the Department of Homeland Security, once this got out, they're like, oh, damage control. They quickly followed up in a tweet refuting those claims, saying, quote, the money in question, transferred to ICE from FEMA's routine operating expenses, could not have been used for hurricane response due to appropriation limitations. Oh, it wasn't going to get used in that anyway. So, okay, but why are you taking it from operations expenses then? If that is indeed true, well, doesn't FEMA need that money to operate as well? Why are you taking money from FEMA that they use, even if it's not for disaster relief, and shifting it towards ICE? Now, Senator Merkley, by the way, is a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee. Now, he said the administration does have the ability to transfer funds, but it would need to inform Congress. And if the amount is over $5 million, which that's what it is, it would have to notify the committee chair. I'm assuming that they did, or else this would be obviously highly inappropriate / maybe illegal. I don't know the details on that. Now, DHS spokesperson Tyler Holton did say, quote, under no circumstance was any disaster relief funding transferred from FEMA to immigration enforcement efforts. This is a sorry attempt to push a false agenda at a time when the administration is focused on assisting millions on the East Coast facing catastrophic disaster. So that's funny, right? Now, the administration is focused on assisting millions. Kind of like when they helped Puerto Rico. Well, how'd that turn out? Well, nearly 3,000 people died. It was a botched attempt. And now we have another hurricane that's poised to get hit. And while that happens, this administration takes money from FEMA and puts it into detention camps. Literal detention camps. I remember when right-wingers, Alex Jones, were talking about doing the same thing. Putting people into camps. You know what they called those? They called those FEMA camps. Well, here's money from FEMA going into those camps. It's crazy. What is going on here? Oh, but don't worry, Jeff. It's not for disaster relief. Yeah, but we're supposed to take the administration's word for it. An administration that has lied countlessly. And not only that, but a president that has lied countless times. Now, after the administration, the way that the administration botched their earlier disaster relief doesn't help at all to reduce the operating budget of FEMA. But as I said before, Republicans cannot help themselves. It's almost as if they want FEMA to fail. And I know that is a really, really heavy charge. I understand that. But consider this. Republicans want government programs to fail so that they can privatize it. It seems almost unconscionable to say this, to even come up with the idea, and to even think about the idea that the Republicans under Trump would put people's lives in danger in order to privatize disaster relief. I don't know if that's what's happening. It is unthinkable. But it is a possibility. Just saying, just putting it out there. I hope that's not the case. I hope they're better than that. But seeing them transfer and take money from this program and putting it into something that's disastrous, that's terrible, doesn't give me much hope. Okay, there's more. We're not done in this. What was it? Ben Shapiro called it a poop NATO. This is back when he was anti-Trump. Now he's super pro-Trump, knows how to kiss ass. But Ben Shapiro, during the Republican primaries, literally called Trump a poop NATO. Well, it's not quite that. Was like a poopacane or something. I don't know. I can't come up with a good name for it, but it's not good. All right. Anyway. Let's move on. Now, with Hurricane Florence making its way towards land, the president recently decided to reflect on the job he did with some of the disasters that happened last year. Let's take a look at that.
I think probably the hardest one we had by far was Puerto Rico because of the island nature. And I actually think it was one of the best jobs that's ever been done with respect to what this is all about. Puerto Rico got hit not with one hurricane, but with two. And the problem with Puerto Rico is their electric grid and their electric generating plant was dead before the storms ever hit. It was in very bad shape. It was in bankruptcy, had no money. It was largely closed. And when the storm hit, they had no electricity essentially before the storm. And when the storm hit, that took it out entirely. The job that FEMA and law enforcement and everybody did, working along with the governor in Puerto Rico, I think was tremendous. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible, unsung success.
Incredible, unsung success. Puerto Rico Nearly 3,000 people died as a result after the two storms. Now, it's not as a direct result of like during the storm, right? This is afterwards. This is after supplies were not there. Hospitals didn't have power. Things like that. Nearly 3,000 people died. That is more than Katrina. Katrina, I mean, when you go back there to the time when Katrina happened, that was a scandal. A huge scandal. That was a gigantic stain on the Bush presidency, among many others. But it was a worse disaster. Now Trump has had an even worse disaster, and he is saying, unsung success. I actually think it was one of the best jobs. My God, man. You know, everything's got to be the best with him. It's the greatest. I did such a fantastic job. And notice, it was about him. And about the job that he did. Well, I directed FEMA. I directed law enforcement. I think it's one of the best jobs that we ever did. The greatest. You know, despite, as he mentioned earlier, the challenges of it being an island. In fact, let's hear Trump explain why it was so difficult to get help.
All appropriate departments of our government, from Homeland Security to Defense, are engaged fully in the disaster and the response and recovery effort probably has never been seen for something like this. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water.
No, it's surrounded by cream fucking cheese. God, this man is stupid. He is such an idiot. Big water, ocean water. We've never seen anything like this before. You have a naval base there. Literally, you have no problem transferring military equipment to Puerto Rico, to the military base there. But when it comes to transferring supplies and making sure people don't die, well, that's very difficult because it's an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Idiot. Oh, idiot. Now, despite that, he says, we did awesome. In fact, when he was asked to grade himself on the job that they did, here's what he said. We got A pluses for our recent hurricane work in Texas and Florida and did an unappreciated great job in Puerto Rico, even though an inaccessible island with very poor electricity and a totally incompetent mayor of San Juan. We are ready for the big one that is coming. Notice, the island was inaccessible, you know, because of the big water and everything. And it had very poor electricity. And totally incompetent mayor. Wasn't, you know, anything that happened wasn't my fault. I think we did a great job. Well, you know who gave him that A+? He did. Nobody else thinks that he did a great job. No one else thinks that. And besides that, that shouldn't be the point. Why is the conversation about how good of a job he did and not, you know, how we should do better? Like, he's got no self-awareness. He doesn't look and say, we could have done better in Puerto Rico. I give myself an A-. You know, because there were so many people that died and there were so many difficulties and, you know, there were problems and, you know what, we could have done a better job. And here's what my administration will do to start doing a better job so that this doesn't happen. Instead, A+. A+, tremendous. I think it was one of the best jobs. You know, he doesn't have any empathy. That's why he doesn't talk like that. What else can you say? Doesn't care about other human beings, especially about, you know, people in Puerto Rico. I wonder why that is. I mean, I'm sure he'll care a lot more about the people in North and South Carolina, which, of course, I do. I care about all Americans. Puerto Ricans, guess what? They're Americans as well. But, to Trump, low-key racism. Brown people. Yeah, I mean, look, you want proof of that? You go back to some of the stuff that he'd said about that, about how they're lazy in their cleanup efforts. If that doesn't show you low-key racism, I don't know what does. Some of his statements on it. But, look, all I can say is, if you're in the path of the current hurricane, I hope either you can get away. Like, if you can, do so. It's going to be disastrous. For those of you who plan to stay, I hope you're stocked up. And I hope you're someplace safe. Because the administration has shown that if you need help, it's not going to get to you anytime soon. They're utterly incompetent. So, look, stay safe, everyone. If you're in the path, seriously, stay safe, okay? And I hope for the best, man. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. More stories for you, including how impeachment might be fantastic for Trump. We've got that story. Please give us a like, share the stream, and consider super chats. Also, subscribe. We'll come back with more subscriber numbers and more stories when we get back after the break. All right, round the nation. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Jeff Waldorf here, around the nation. Okay, quick subscriber numbers. Let me see if there's an increase here since we're doing a subscriber drive to 100,000. 87,323. So we have gained 2 subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate that. If you haven't already, please give us a like and share as well. And urge others to subscribe to the channel. Going to get to 100,000 as soon as possible. Okay, let's see. I'm going to find some things here. Oh, I did not get to mention, by the way, that I guess the newest statements on the hurricane from President Trump. He said, quote, "They haven't seen anything like what's coming at us in 25, 30 years, maybe ever. It's tremendously big and tremendously wet. A tremendous amount of water." I laugh because if I didn't, I would cry. That's what you have with the Trump presidency. Tremendously big, tremendously wet. My God, man. He's a child. Okay. Just wanted to put that quote out there. Because I've seen that. Oh, boy. All right. Here we go. Let's see. I'm just seeing a comment here. Because I do read the comments throughout the show, by the way. I would love to hire... a sexy co-host, but I don't have money. That's kind of why I have to ask for donations through Patreon, because I don't have that money. I can barely afford myself, much less anybody else. But anyway, let's move into the stories. Let's get into impeachment. Nope, that's the wrong story. There we go. Okay. Now, with some of the recent polls showing the possibility of a blue wave in November, as well as continued declining support for the president, the possibility of impeachment proceedings is beginning to panic Republicans just a little bit. Even Donald Trump is now thinking about it, is now talking about it. Now, Axios reports that now, since he is thinking about it, which is a surprise that he's thinking about anything or that he thinks at all, he's thinking, you know what? Impeachment might not be bad. It actually might be good. Axios reports that if he's impeached but not removed from office, which is very important, Trump could try to play the victim card and paint Democrats as having unfairly attacked him. Axios thinks that Donald Trump can win that argument. Or let me go say that again. Axios says Trump thinks he can win that argument. So just to be clear. And you know what? I think he might be right. At least right now. Now, I've talked about this before, right? So now Republicans, behind the scenes, Republican congressmen know he's dumb. They know Donald Trump is an idiot. They've said it before. They hate him. But that's behind the scenes. In front of the cameras, oh, no, we love him. Oh, Donald Trump, we will defend him, at least on most things. And we will give the most tepid of criticism towards him. So, look, the reason for that is because the base loves Donald Trump. Republican voters think Trump is awesome. They think Trump is amazing and that he's making America great again, right? In fact, he still has somewhere around 80% approval rating among Republican voters. Okay. Now, if these politicians want to keep their jobs, and hint, spoiler alert, they do, except for people like Bob Corker or Jeff Flake, and, you know, some of the late John McCain as well, they actually did speak out against him, but there was one distinction. Those politicians, they're not running for office anymore. Look, a great example here is Mitt Romney. Now, when Mitt Romney wasn't running for anything, Mitt Romney was actually criticizing Donald Trump. Well, now that he's running for something, suddenly his name is Reek. So that's what happens. If you're running for something, you know, you could do a political calculation that being at least not criticizing Trump and sort of defending Trump, or at least staying quiet, that is better for your career than being outspoken against Donald Trump, because the base loves him. Now, the other thing, and I want to go to the op-ed for that, right? Now, the writer, him or her, they don't want to, and they said this before, they don't want to use the 25th Amendment to get rid of him, despite him being obviously mentally unstable. I didn't bring that up. They brought that up. They're talking about, inside the White House, the 25th Amendment. Should we remove the president because he is mentally unstable? And they should know because they're there. But even in that op-ed, they say it would actually be better if we don't remove the president, if we don't invoke the 25th Amendment, and we just leave him there. And we, as the adults in the room, make sure to police his worst impulses. Well, the question is why? If he is mentally unstable, if he is dangerous, then why do we need to have a bunch of adults in the room when instead we could get rid of him and then have Mike Pence? Well, don't you guys like Mike Pence? He's one of you. He's a Republican. He's actually incredibly conservative, incredibly pro-life, dangerously religious. A lot of you like that. I mean, evangelicals who voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, they would love Mike Pence to take over, wouldn't they? But no, the Republican Party, at least the ones in the White House, they're like, nope, no, we're not going to remove Trump. We're not interested in that. My overall point is that Congress likely feels the same. The reason that Trump is so popular with the base, and even with Republicans who despise him, is because he has done everything that they've wanted him to do. Maybe not in the way that they've wanted him to do it, but he has. Giant tax cuts for the donors. Deregulation for, again, the donors. He has served the donors very, very well and managed to push things through with faux populism. Unlike George W. Bush or any of the other Republican presidents, he has been able to do things, not to his credit, that other Republican presidents couldn't get away with. So they're like, yeah, let's keep him. Another reason, cover, right? He actually gives other Republicans cover to enact their agenda behind the scenes because, of course, the media is so focused on him being an idiot. Now, of course, the president is an idiot. He is a painfully dumb person who, again, has mental issues. But Donald Trump looks at this and thinks, oh, no, everybody loves me, except for the Democrats, except for that Democrat Robert Mueller, who's actually a registered Republican. Mueller, out to get me. Despite me doing an amazing job, I am great at everything. Why would anybody ever consider impeaching me? In fact, that he has said that. Why would you want to impeach me when I'm doing such a great job? That doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's not about that. It's not about that. Now, to the midterms, right? Now, he has repeated to people that if the Democrats impeach him, it would be a victory politically because it would be a complete overreach and he could exploit it and run against it in 2020, according to a source familiar with Trump's thinking on the November midterms. So now what's interesting about this is a bit of a big change from his previous statements. Not that that thing should be at all surprising to anybody because he changes his opinions all the time. He said back in May, your vote in 2018 is every bit as important as your vote in 2016. But then he said, although I'm not really sure I really believe that. I don't know who the hell wrote that line. Who cares? Your vote's not important. I'm president already. Don't worry. I got this. Well, he has changed his tune. Recently, Trump told a crowd in Montana that if he were to be impeached, it would, quote, be your fault because you didn't go out and vote. Hey, man, if I get impeached by the Democrats, that's on you. You know, because you didn't go out and vote for me. No, you know whose fault it'd be? Donald Trump for doing, I don't know, possibly criminal actions. This guy's unbearable. Has he ever taken responsibility for anything in his entire life? And the answer to that would be, of course, no. That said, all that said, the Republicans in Congress will not impeach the president. No, no, no. I don't think they'll actually impeach or remove the president. Look, here's the thing. If the people around him in the White House who see him every day and deal with his worst tendencies wouldn't consider removing him, and even for Mike Pence, then I have very, very little faith that Congress will remove him. Remember, you need at least 2/3 of Congress to successfully remove the sitting president via impeachment. Now, there's a chance that Democrats could definitely win the House, but not the Senate. So they would have control of one chamber of the House. I don't know by how many seats, but it probably wouldn't be enough to be 2/3. You need a 2/3 majority to eliminate a president. So, and look, maybe if Mueller releases the results of his investigation and they do find something that is incredibly damaging to him, maybe you'll get enough Republicans. But again, I really highly doubt it. Because again, that would involve Republicans actually caring about the law and caring about going after a president who is a criminal. I don't think that'll happen. Republicans serve party over country. And more importantly, donors over everything. And so far, as I said before, the donors have gotten everything that they've wanted with Donald Trump. And to go back to the old adage, why would you want to change horses midstream? So, okay. All right. Speaking of Mueller. All right. So there's a new report out that shows that federal investigators are now looking into a few suspicious money transfers between people who have been associated with Donald Trump and, more importantly, had been involved in the 2016 Trump Tower meeting. Now, that was, of course, a meeting where you had people like Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort basically meeting with people who apparently had dirt on Hillary Clinton. Now, BuzzFeed News reported on Wednesday that secret documents it evaluated show that a complex web of financial transactions may play a role in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into election interference. Now, those documents apparently involve money from Russia and Switzerland being moved to places such as the British Virgin Islands, Bangkok, and New Jersey. Jeez. So that money, these transfers, again, kind of weird, right? Now, 4 federal law enforcement officials did tell the news outlet that investigators are specifically looking into 2 bursts of transactions that bank examiners found suspicious. Now, one of the bursts occurred 11 days after the Trump Tower meeting in June 2016, while the other happened right after President Trump's election. So you might want to look into, well, I mean, they might want to look into, and they are, the timing of this, which the timing is, of course, a little curious. Right around that meeting where they said, hey, we've got dirt on Hillary Clinton, why not come meet us? And then, of course, Don Jr. said, well, we didn't actually get dirt on Clinton. All they wanted to do was talk about the McGinsky Act and all that stuff. We weren't really interested in that. Or were they? Well, these these money transfers might actually mean something. And if they had gotten something in return, well, for that dirt, that could cause some serious problems. Now, the first, an offshore company controlled by Aris Agalarov, billionaire real estate developer with close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Trump wired almost $20 million to his own account at a New York bank, according to BuzzFeed. That's strange. The second burst happened when Agalarov transferred $1.2 million from the Agalarov family bank in Russia to an account in New Jersey controlled by his son, Ayman Agalarov. So you've got some money flying around. Okay, but what's so unusual about money? Other than the amount. I mean, look, the amount, pretty large, $20 million. But maybe they were just buying or investing in a property or something. I don't know. We don't know. Well, there was another strange thing about it. BuzzFeed noted that the account had been dormant since 2015, and that bankers found it unusual that Ayman Agalarov's checking account grew after Trump's election. Again, look at the timing. Now, the New Jersey account also reportedly sent money to a company controlled by a man's name who I cannot say, who was a long-time associate of theirs and had represented the family at the Trump Tower meeting. So now you have people who are connected to that meeting getting money from these accounts through companies. There's a lot of shadiness going on here. Now, it additionally noted that the company, I'm just going to call it K's company, funded a music business launched by Robert Goldstone, Ayman Agalarov's British publicist, who had first pitched the Trump Tower meeting. So basically what you have is this really strange web of money transfers, very significant sums of money, all linked to people in some way or the other involved in the Trump Tower meeting. No wonder investigators happen to be interested in this. Now, BuzzFeed also notes that the transactions were discovered after law enforcement officials told financial institutions to sift through records of people connected to the Russia investigation. Bankers then reported the suspicious activity reports to the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So, again, all this money flying around, a little suspicious. That's not the first time big amounts of money or anything suspicious happened between Trump and a bank, or people tied to Trump and a bank. You also had a server registered to the Trump organization that had reportedly been pinged by a Russian bank. I don't know if they were communicating, or what exactly they were communicating, or if they were communicating at all. Don't know. It's kind of suspicious, right? Now, to be 100% clear, this does not mean that there's any evidence of criminal activity. These could be completely legit loans or money transfers. But when such a large amount of money is transferred to different places and through different people connected with some sort of, or with this investigation, that's going to raise a few red flags, okay? Now, again, nobody here has been charged. They're looking, but they are looking into it, and if it has anything to do with the Trump Tower meeting itself. Now, what's interesting about this, right? Now, and sort of how this ties into how it could be a problem for them down the road, BuzzFeed did note that federal prosecutors used suspicious activity reports to charge Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort was convicted on 8 counts related to bank and tax fraud. So I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Now, of course, an attorney representing the Agalarovs and Mr. K told BuzzFeed that, quote, "I'm actually perplexed why anyone is interested in this or why anybody in their right mind would treat this as suspicious. These are all transactions either between one of Mr. Agalarov's accounts and another of Mr. Agalarov's accounts, or one of Mr. Agalarov's accounts and an account in the name of one of his employees. Nothing suspicious about that. Why are you looking? Why are you looking? I mean, anybody in their right mind wouldn't look at this. Well, just ask those bankers who flagged it. Just saying. But look, there's $20 million. That's a lot of money. And as I said before, the bankers found it incredibly strange. Again, maybe it's legit. Maybe it was involved in a large purchase. Who knows where that money's going, or a large investment. That's what the investigation is for. But if they do find that this is tied to the Trump Tower meeting in some way, like a payoff or something, well, and that's going to end up being a very big piece of evidence. Okay. So there's that update. Here we go. So everybody knows that high drug prices are a big issue when it comes to healthcare. In fact, we spend more in America on prescription drugs than anywhere else in the developed world. There is a serious problem, and we're the only country that has this kind of problem. Now, why is that? Well, I'm going to give you a statement here from an executive of a drug company that will kind of spell it out for you. Now, this is Nirmal Mule, right? He is the chief executive of drug company Nostrum Laboratories. And in response to a question of why the price of an antibiotic his company sells has increased in price by fourfold, he had this answer. Quote, "I think it is a moral requirement to make money when you can, to sell the product for the highest price." It is a moral requirement to make as much money as possible, is what he's saying. No, making money, doing whatever I can to maximize profit, that's moral. It's a moral requirement. I have to. Now, let me give you some details about what this is about. Now, the drug, nitrofurantoin, is basically an antibiotic. It has been used to treat urinary tract infections. In fact, here's the thing. Nostrum Laboratories did not create this drug. It's actually been in the market since about 1953 and has been listed by the World Health Organization as, quote, an essential medicine for basic healthcare systems. So that's to give you context into this drug. Now, this drug, now according to the new price, thanks to Mr. Mule, is now for a bottle $2,392. It used to go for about $500 per bottle. That is literally over 4 times the cost of a bottle of a drug that had previously that bottle of medicine had previously gone for. A 4-fold increase. That's insane. Now, if hiking up that price wasn't bad enough, and believe me, it is, and then saying, hey man, moral imperative, I must hike the price up because it is, I have to maximize profit. What do you want me to do? Well, that's not bad enough. He also went to defend Martin Shkreli. Remember him, right? Farmer Bro. He actually said, quote, and this is in Financial Times, I agree with Martin Shkreli that when he raised the price of the drug, he was within his rights because he had to reward his shareholders. This is a capitalist economy. We have to make money when we can. That's the mindset right there. Now, even if that means price gouging you to where you can't afford that medication that you might need. Hey man, look, price of doing business. I have to reward my shareholders. Sad day for you. Now, doesn't that kind of fly in the face of what a lot of people say? A lot of these CEOs and a lot of Republicans in office say that no, if you have the free market will take care of things. It'll take care of everything. It'll make sure that you can afford drugs. Well, this is a free market. This is a result of that free market. Look, corporations are not moral, right? They are amoral. They are profit-seeking machines. They have no morality because their entire purpose is to maximize profit. Now, this is the inevitable result. Seeing a drug, or two, like, for example, Daraprim, which is what Martin Shkreli had marked up by 5,000%. Seeing the price of that. And seeing the price of this increase fourfold. This is what happens when you let these machines run roughshod over human beings. We've literally been ruled by the machines, by these corporations, by these legal fictions and entities. Now, Mule is being, of course, challenged on this. Scott Gottlieb, who's the commissioner of the FDA, did fire back on Twitter. He said, quote, "There is no moral imperative to price gouge and take advantage of patients." So that's the FDA. That's an official. He also said that his agency would continue to promote competition, so speculators and those with no regard to public health consequences can't take advantage of patients who need medicine. Hey, look, that's all well and good, right? But it's not competition alone that's going to solve this problem. We're going to have competition. Or at least we had competition. And then, of course, you had these companies. What do? They consolidate. And they use patent laws to their advantage to corner markets and to hold on to health patents as much as they can. In fact, there's a recent story where the maker of OxyContin had a drug. And what they did is that they first got the patent, because we have patent laws here that are incredibly generous towards the companies. Then they bought out someone who could make a generic version, so that they could control the supply of this drug. That's the kind of shady stuff that they do. So we need to look into reforming that. We also need to look into allowing, for example, Medicare or the government to negotiate drug prices with companies. We also need to let people import cheaper Canadian drugs, which are just as safe, if not safer, than American-made drugs. And obviously a lot cheaper. See, but here's the thing. They have a stranglehold on the markets, which is why you can do this in the first place. And again, competition. You want to talk about competition? Well, we don't have competition at all. In fact, Nostrum is one of only 2 current marketers on the in the U.S. of a liquid formulation of nitrofurantoin. Moyle said his firm increased its price in response to a similar hike by the other drug maker, Casper Pharma, which recently increased the price of its product, which it markets under the brand name Firadantin, to $2,800 a bottle. So this other company says, we're going to jack up our price. And in response, this, Mule's company says, okay, we're going to jack up our price too. But there's no scarcity in the market. There are some tighter FDA rules, but that did not create an enormous amount of scarcity in the market to justify this price hike. And here's what's maddening to this, right? Moyle told the Financial Times, quote, "The point here is that the only other choice is the brand at the higher price." He also says it is still a savings regardless of whether it's a big one or not. So we jacked this up, right? But we did undercut our competition just a little bit. Are we not magnanimous? Look at how much savings you get after we jack it up by 4 times the original price. We got to go after these guys. This is insanity. And again, 2 firms actually create this. So there's only 2 companies out there that are selling this, and they both decided to hike their prices up. But in total, 9 firms, including Casper and Nostrum, hold active licenses from the FDA for manufacturing the drug. So these other 7 companies, they could manufacture the drug, but they decided not to. Well, maybe they'll jump into it now that the prices are high. But here's another quote that is absolutely maddening. He says, quote, defending this is a capitalist economy, and you can't make money if you can't make money, you can't stay in business. We have to make money when we can. The price of iPhones goes up. The price of cars goes up. Hotel rooms are very expensive. So you are comparing healthcare to an iPhone. You're comparing healthcare to a hotel room. Look, healthcare is not a hotel room. Healthcare is not an iPhone. Healthcare is not a car. Okay, those are consumer goods. Healthcare is not a consumer, should not be a consumer good. Healthcare should not be tied to profit. There is nothing, going back to his statement, moral about this. Corporations may be immoral, or amoral, I should say. But this guy defending it, totally immoral. Totally immoral. Look, when it comes down to it, morality and the type of capitalism that we have, predatory capitalism, are not compatible. If your entire purpose is to maximize profit for shareholders, which our corporations are, then that means that you are going to do immoral things to gain an advantage. Eventually. You won't start out doing that as a company, but eventually you will. What else can you call it when you jack up the price of a life-saving medication by 5,000%? Or by four times its original price? What do you call that? When you overcharge people to the point of where they can't afford their medication. There are people right now that can't afford insulin, that have to save up for days. There's a story where a person, went into the doctor to get the prescription, or the pharmacy to get their insulin prescription. And they're like, I would have been here for a couple of days ago, but I didn't have the money. I'm surprised I'm still alive. Jesus, man. If that's not immoral, I don't know what is. And the thing is that even though it's immoral, it's still under our system legal. There's no law saying that they can't do this. Well, maybe we should look into changing that. Speaking of laws, speaking of politicians, anybody remember when President Trump said he was going to do something about this? No, what happened? What happened? Oh, right, he did absolutely nothing. I think he got Pfizer to do a temporary rollback or some sort of little rollback on some of their price hikes. But look, for the most part, though, most of those high-profile rollbacks have either been temporary or have been filled with loopholes so that they can still charge exorbitant amounts. This is your free market. I'd say the free market has no business in healthcare. We need some sort of regulation that bars this practice. More importantly, I think the biggest fix for this, honestly, would be to move to a single-payer healthcare system. Why? Well, when you have a single-payer system that is government-run, the government can use its power to bring down the price of prescription drugs. Other countries have done it. Why do you think we pay way more than every other country that has a single-payer system? It's because they have that system. It works. It works. Medicare for all actually works. It will bring down the price of drugs, and that will mean savings, not only for you, but for the government as well. So, but until then, until we get that system, until we make these reforms, then we're going to end up being the only country, the only modern country on earth that still has this problem, where people end up dying because they can't afford their medication. We've got to change this immoral system. Okay. All right. That's it, guys. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to check my subscriber total one more time for you guys. Subscriber drive. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Also, like and share the stream. 87,325, so we're still at the same. So I want to hit 87,400 by the end of the day. That is 75 subscribers. Guys, if you're watching, please subscribe. Get us to 100,000, and then we will continue to move on from there. But thank you to those who already have. I'm going to check to see if I have any super chat messages before we sign off for the day. I thought I saw one earlier. Romantic Warrior 1 says, spoiler alert, anonymous Trump and company set this up to distract from Woodward book. SCOTUS nomination and fire up base. Surprise. Yes, the Brett Kavanaugh nomination is also continuing to go on. And Donald Trump, of course, hates this Woodward book. I read a story earlier where Woodward points out that there was another high-placed official that told him, quote, "This book is 1,000% correct." High praise. Now, of course, anonymous people. I mean, how can we trust them, right? That if they don't come out and actually expose who they are. Well, there's a couple of reasons they say that. For one, they do want them to expose themselves so they can fire them. Of course. Though it would be kind of hard to fire everybody who came out, because there were a lot of significant figures who probably have to fire most of the White House. So, and of course, the other reason is to basically say you can't trust anonymous sources. That's it. They're anonymous. Who knows if they even exist? So, but in reality, Trump is pissed off at this book. He is getting very, very concerned over this. And you know what? Good. Not a surprise. All right. Anyway. So, so we're going to sign off for the day. Tomorrow, of course, join us same time, same place, same channel, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here, around the nation. Follow me on Twitter, ATN on TYT. And remember, please share out the videos. Patrons will have the videos for you later tonight in a nice little package, so you guys can make sure not to miss any of our videos for the day. All right, guys. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you tomorrow.